The Itchen Navigation that once connected Southampton to Winchester has long been just a footpath and completely unnavigable by any form of boat, even a canoe for its total length. Many schemes have been proposed over the years to enable boat traffic again, but there are many obstacles that would be needed to overcome. Today we look at just one of them, the section south of Winchester, where the navigation had been completely cut off by the construction of the M3 motorway that was constructed in the early 1990s. This is what we will be discussing today.
Hello, my name's Alan. I'm pleased you can join me today on this little walk along the Itchen Navigation. We're south of Winchester, not far from the M3 junction 11. And today we'll be having a look at a lost lock. A lock that once took barge traffic from Southampton to Winchester, carrying coal, wood, stone, long before modern roads. It hasn't been used for a best part of 200 years, but who knows, one day in the future it could just come back. So I'll be showing a possible route of a new lock that bypasses the M3 that disturbed the old way of going. This is a beautiful route to walk, by the way. You can walk it all the way from Southampton to Winchester. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can break it down into little pieces. Each one of them have got their own interest. They're really nice places to go. Right, at this point the River Itchen carries on, but when barge traffic was working over 200 years ago, it would have taken a right turn here under this this modern wooden bridge and would have gone towards the lock in the distance here. Right, we're following the path to where the old lock used to be. Now, there's very little of it left, to be honest, but you should be able to see where it was. Sometimes called Twyford Lock. It never really had a name because it was out of use for so long. But nevertheless, it raised the water level for barges for probably 7 or 8 feet. So it could get from the river level where we just were right up to the level that is just below St Catherine's Lock, next to St Catherine's Hill. As you can probably see, the tail end of the lock is now pretty stagnant water. It hasn't been cleaned out for a very long time. But you could almost imagine over 200 years ago, barge traffic coming along this very route. That's probably going to be very difficult for you to make out, but there's a brick concrete wall which was at the head of the lock, and this actually controlled the water flow before the M3 was built. There was never much water coming this way because it was all diverted down into the River Itchen, but nevertheless they made provision for it to come this way, and it's pretty dried up now. And if I fight my way through the brambles, you may just make out the brickwork at the tail end where the lock gates would have been at the bottom end. Now, originally this lock would have had earth sides, turf sides. It was actually rebuilt in 1749, And I've got some pictures that I took some years ago when the vegetation was a lot more clearer. So I'll put them up now because it still shows the dates on the brickwork. It really all wants clearing out again now, but I suppose nobody can really see the worth of it. Now, this lock would never ever be rebuilt because of the M3. We'll have a look at that in a while, and you'll be able to see why exactly it could never take its intended original route. Right, this is the position at the head of the lock, and originally the navigation would have actually turned quite sharply left here to follow what is now the road from the motorway to Twyford. Right, so it's difficult for you to make out, but I'm now standing right in the bed of the navigation. If I'd have been here 200 years ago, I'd have probably been up to my neck in water, with barges coming both ways. But the reason for me scrabbling down the bank is if we just look in the other direction. So this would have been heading up towards Winchester. If I go a little bit closer, you'll be able to see one of the original culverts. Yeah, it's pretty overgrown. The snowdrops are doing their best to cheer it up, but it is looking rather sad for itself. In the distance, I don't know if you can see it or not, I can't get a lot closer. You see the grill to the culvert. You'll have to take my word for it, but there is a metal grill and culvert beyond those brambles. Now that goes all the way underneath the M3 and the slip roads actually, and comes out on the other side. So this would have taken the water that was from the navigation originally. Now it was much like this long before the M3 actually, because the Winchester bypass was constructed in the 1930s, and obviously by then the navigation was long out of use, so there never seemed to be much use to put in a proper bridge suitable for barges. So they just put in this short pipe which basically stopped the water from gathering too much at the other end. We'll leave the peace and quiet of the countryside for a bit as we join the road that goes from the motorway junction to Twyford, and we're coming out just opposite Hockley Golf Club. I'm standing now right on the top of that culvert that we looked at, and you can see the motorway sign which explains a little bit more clearly where we are. So if I just look across, if you can imagine the camera now looking in a very straight line, that is the route of the culvert. And as you can see, it's pretty shallow under my feet now, and there's no way that could ever be made into anything big enough to take barge traffic. It would have to go under the slip road at both ends and the motorway and this bridge. But at least there is a possible another route, so we'll go and have a little look closely, and I'll try and explain things. Right, this is the north end of the culvert. So as I swing across, I'll get the camera pointing exactly where it runs. Obviously you're not going to be able to see much at all because we've got two slip roads and the M3 between us. But there's obviously no way on earth that that could ever be made navigable again. I'm now standing in the bed of the navigation underneath where the railway passed overhead. It's more or less dry now, but that's only because the navigation has been diverted into the river further upstream. There's no reason why this couldn't be made navigable again at this point. And if we swing past Yeah, the locals have been showing their artistic presence. Again, this is the bridge abutment to the old railway bridge. And here we have the navigation again, very overgrown, of course, but it could quite easily, I think, be dug out and cleared again. And I'll show you where I think it could go if it was reinstated. So here's the culvert that the original navigation ended many, many years ago. Now we've had a look to see where the culvert goes, but if a new navigation cut went to the right, more or less to the right of those blue signposts, you'll find there's quite a dip that's been left by the builders when they did the M3 as a possible new route. Right, this is the Five Bridges Road, which was originally the main road from Twyford to St Cross in Winchester. It's abandoned to traffic now, it's only a footpath. And behind here is the brickwork of the old railway line. And in between, just to the right, is the possible route of the new navigation. So it would go beneath where I'm standing. Wouldn't be that difficult to build a footbridge and carry on in amongst all that growth, and I'll kind of try and explain that a bit better in a bit. And I'm now on a little footpath that leads up to the Hockley Viaduct, but if I swing right across, hopefully you can see that although it's pretty overgrown, there's quite a dip down there, and this dip goes all the way to the river, where right in the beginning I told you it could possibly join and swing to the right. And it's in this section here where a new lock could be constructed to get the level of the river correct and match where the navigation would need to rise to go all the way up to the next lock. So we're now approaching the Hockley Viaduct, which was of course the old Great Western Railway route into Chesil Station at Winchester, which is now long gone. I'm glad they've made this into a path and cycle route because it's really quite a nice way of travelling along away from all the traffic. Okay, we're stood right over the top of the Hockley Viaduct, and the Itchen Navigation is running right underneath us. And you can see the main M3 motorway bridge and the smaller bridge that feeds the link road. And this is where, to the left of us now, is possible for the new Itchen Navigation to take a sharp turn to the new lock position. In a proposed new route for the navigation, it would have carried straight on here instead of making the right turn as I described earlier on. So if I follow the river a little further along towards the M3 motorway bridge, I'll explain how it would have been done. Right, you can see the bridge that carries the M3 over the Itchen Navigation, and there's plenty of height and width in case barges ever did need to come underneath again. And also beyond that there is another bridge which we'll have a look at, which again is high and wide enough. Well, it's a bit noisy because we're going straight under the M3 right now, very close to junction 11. And the little bridge that's slightly lower is the link road that carries the junction up to the Otterbourne roundabout. And beyond that, you can probably just make out the brick arch, or one of the brick arches, of the old railway viaduct, the Shawford Railway Viaduct. But the bit I wanted to concentrate on is just beyond this concrete bridge, but before the brick viaduct. It's possible that that is where the navigation could take a turn to the right towards a possible new lock. So again, we'll have a look at the location of that.
Although there is practically no hope of a new route and a lock being constructed, it is somewhat comforting to know that not all hope is lost for the future.